I know that I said I wanted to reduce my physical TBR for 2023, but I'm probably going to put all of these onto the said TBR, so that sounds like somebody else's problem. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife and today I'm taking you through the books that have caught my eye that are coming out between January and June of 2023. I love kind of making these lists at the start of the year and then going back to see if I've actually read any of the books that I have put on it, because they're usually books that sound really exciting to me, or they're authors that I have loved before, or they've got tropes that I'm genuinely interested in reading. So it's always good for me to see, have I gone back and actually picked up any of the books that I've put on the list. In this list, there's kind of a mix of authors that I have really loved or books that sounded really exciting to me when I heard about them. So let's take a look at what we've got. Coming out on the 3rd of January is Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. Talia Hibbert is one of my favourite authors of all time. I absolutely adore the Brown Sister series. I have got 2 copies of it, one physical, one on my Kindle, and I am obsessed with these. I have got a couple of her backlist books that I also really want to read over the course of this year. So when I heard that she had a book coming out in early 2023, I was instantly onto it. I'm going to read the synopsis of all of these from my phone because there's so many of them that I feel like if I just try to summarize them, I'd probably get confused. But this one is: Bradley Graham is pretty much perfect. He's a star football player, manages his OCD well enough, and comes out on top in all his classes, except the ones that he shares with his ex-best friend Celine. Celine Bangura is conspiracy theory obsessed. Social media followers eat up her takes on everything from UFOs to holiday overconsumption, yet she's not cool enough for the popular kids table, which is why Brad abandoned her for the in crowd years ago. At least that's how Celine sees it. These days, there's nothing between them other than petty insults and academic rivalry. So when Celine signs up for a survival course in the woods, she is surprised to find Brad right beside her. Forced to work together as a team for the chance to win a grand prize, these 2 teens must trudge through not just mud and dirt, but their messy past. And as this adventure brings them closer together, they begin to remember the good bits of their history. But has too much time passed, or just enough to spark a whole new kind of relationship? I have a feeling because it's a YA book, it's not going to be as smutty or as steamy as any of the other Talia Hibbert books that I have read so far. But I do like a little bit of kind of variety in the levels of smut that I read. So let's see how I feel about this one. Coming out on January the 19th is X's and O's by Amy Leah, or Amy Lee. I've had her other book, Set on You, on my NetGalley TBR with absolutely ages. And I know that one person who I know has read it didn't particularly love it because there was a Harry Potter reference a little bit earlier on the book. And I feel like we have kind of moved past that as a community, but let's see how I get on with this second one that she has. Tara Chen has had her heart broken 10 times by 10 different men. Nevertheless, she's still determined to find her perfect match. The only problem, Tara is romance novel obsessive and her standards are sky high. Modern dating apps have killed the meet cute, so Tara decides to revisit her exes, all 10 of them, in the hopes of finding her very own trope-worthy second chance romance. Every heroine needs a sidekick, so she enlists her new flatmate, firefighter Trevor. Trevor Metcalf is the first to rush into a burning building, but the last to rush into a relationship. Love just isn't his thing. But the more time they spend together, the more Trevor appreciates Tara's authentic, dramatic self. Can they break the habits of a lifetime and give their spark a chance? I love a forced proximity book. I love a book that has like roommates coming together or friends that have to stay in a hotel together. I also kind of am interested in the second chance romance idea. I love kind of going back to your past, going back to like the small town that you grew up in, and I feel like that's going to appear quite a lot in this book. So I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to put aside what I heard about her previous book and let's just see how we end up. Also coming out on January 19th is The Mysterious Case of the Alperton Angels by Janice Hallett. I devoured The Appeal when I read it in April of last year. I have also got a copy of the Twyford Code on my radar. I don't have a copy of it at the moment, but it's one that I definitely would love to buy, to pick up, to get rid of. So I'm very excited about this one. One of my friends has read it and said that it gave them the exact same vibes as The Appeal did, that they started to take notes halfway through the book, that they were concentrating on things that they thought were interesting or that needed to be noted down. So let's see if I have the exact same energy with this book as I did with The Appeal. Open the safe deposit box. Inside you will find research material for a true crime book. You must read the documents and then make a decision. Will you destroy them or will you take them to the police? Everyone knows the sad story of the Alperton Angels, the cult who brainwashed a teenage girl and convinced her that her newborn baby was the Antichrist. Believing they had a divine mission to kill the infant, they were only stopped when the girl came to her senses and called the police. The angels took their own lives rather than stand trial, while mother and baby disappeared into the care system. Nearly 2 decades later, true crime author Amanda Bailey is writing a book on the angels. The Alberton baby has turned 18 and can finally be interviewed if Amanda can find them. It would be the true crime scoop of the year, and it will save her flagging career. But rival author Oliver Menas is just as smart, better connected, and is also on the baby's trail. As Amanda and Oliver are forced to collaborate, they realise that what everyone thinks they know about the angels is wrong. The truth is something much darker and stranger than they had ever imagined. And the story of the Alberton angels is far from over. After all, the devil is in the details. That is so intriguing. And I also really loved the aspect of the appeal where two students, I think Femi and Charlotte were their names, were working together to try and figure out what had happened, who had died, why had they died, who was the one that murdered them. And there was one of the characters that I felt had kind of more of an idea of what was happening than the others, so I'm really intrigued to see if that's going to happen again this time. But I'm really into this book. Coming out on the 2nd of February is The Backup Man by Phoebe Lockhurst. I read The Lock In, I think it was called, at the start of the pandemic, and that felt like a really kind of a pandemic book in that there was a lot of forced proximity between the characters. It wasn't like a straight up romance. I think it was more like a general women's fiction book, but I really enjoyed the idea of these 4 characters having to be kind of caught together and figuring out that there was a stronger connection between them all that they had ever imagined or thought that they had. I also really enjoyed Phoebe's writing style, so I'm really interested to see how I'm going to get on with it in this book. 29, single, jobless, and in a house share with her cousin who can barely look at her, things could be going better for Anya Mackey. When she stumbles across the pact she made with high school crush Ewan Carrick to marry at 30 if they're still single, a silly teenage idea suddenly seems like a lifeline. However, Ewan hasn't been seen for over a decade. Reluctantly enlisting the help of Ewan's emotionally unavailable best mate Jamie Kildare, who has his own mysterious reasons for tracking Ewan down, Anya sets off across the country to find her backup man. Will Ewan even remember her or their pact, and why is Anya betting her future on her past? This has a little bit of a second chance romance feel to it, and it doesn't necessarily hit with me all the time, but I'm going to go in with an open mind. I'm going to see how I feel about it, because the idea of tracking somebody down because they've gone missing and trying to find out why this other person also wants to find them genuinely intrigues me. Jumping forward an entire month, but coming out on the 2nd of March is Strange Sally Diamond by Liz Nugent. Liz Nugent is one of my favourite thriller writers at the moment. She is so engaging, her stories are so gripping, her storytelling is phenomenal. So I am genuinely really excited to see how this one goes. I have read almost all of her entire back catalogue, and I'm pretty sure that this one is going to blow me away just as much as those do. Sally Diamond cannot understand why what she did was so strange. She was only doing what her father told her to do, to put him out with the rubbish when he died. Now Sally is the centre of attention, not only from the hungry media and worried police, but also a sinister voice from a past she has no memory of. As she begins to discover the horrors of her childhood, recluse Sally steps into the world for the first time, making new friends, finding independence, and learning that people don't always mean what they say. But when messages start to arrive from a stranger who knows far more about her past than she knows herself, Sally's life will be thrown into chaos once again. This genuinely sounds so intriguing, and I have a feeling that Liz is going to do exactly what she always does with us, which is lead us down a path, and you think you have it all figured out, and you think you know where you're going with this story, and then she will just completely spin you around, do a 180, and lead you all the way down a second one that you've never even seen. Coming out on the 7th of March is Something Wild and Wonderful by Anita Kelly. I read their debut book, Love and Other Disasters, back in 2022, and I utterly loved it. It had almost everything that I was looking for in a book. It had LGBT main characters, it had a kind of a really heavy emphasis on food and on cooking, and I love seeing books that have that in them, so I'm super excited to see what Anita is going to do next. This one is going to be set a little bit more outside than in a cooking show, than in a restaurant kitchen, so I am a little bit trepidatious because books mainly set in the great outdoors don't always scream out to me, but I'm going to go in with an open mind. I'm going to give it my best shot. Alexei Lebedev's journey on the Pacific Crest Trail begins with a single snake, and it is angling for the hot stranger who seemed to have appeared out of thin air. Lex is prepared for rattlesnakes, blisters, and months of solitude. What he isn't prepared for is Ben Caravallo. But somehow, on a 2,500-mile trail, Lex keeps running into the outgoing and charismatic hiker with golden brown eyes again and again. It might be coincidence, but then again, there's maybe a reason the trail keeps bringing them together. Ben has made his fair share of bad decisions, and almost all of them involved beautiful men. And yet there's something about the gorgeous and quietly nerdy Lex that Ben just cannot walk away from. Surely a bad decision cannot be this smart and cute. And there are worse things than falling in love during the biggest adventure of your life. But when their plans for the future are turned upside down, Ben and Lex begin to wonder if it's possible to hold on to something this wild and wonderful. Coming out on the 18th of April is the Fiancé farce by Alexandria Bellefleur. I read all three of the Written in the Stars trilogy over 2022 and I absolutely adored them. It had a little bit of astrology in them, it had totally different tropes in all three of the books. All of the characters were super engaging, they were somebody that I wanted to follow along with. So I'm really hopeful that this book is also going to set my world on fire, because I have a feeling that this is a very sapphic book. It's got like a marriage convenience or fake dating trope, and I love both of those. Tansy Adams' greatest love is her family's bookstore, passed down from her late father. But when it comes to actual romance, Tansy cannot get past the first chapter. Tired of her stepfamily's questions about her love life, Tansy invents Gemma, a fake girlfriend inspired by the stunning cover model on a best-selling book. They'll never actually meet, so what's the harm in a little fib? But when real-life Gemma crosses Tansy's path, her white knight nearly implodes. Gemma Van Dalen is a wild child, the outcast of her wealthy family, and now the latest heir to the Van Dalen publishing. But the title comes with one tiny condition: she must be married in order to inherit. When Gemma discovers a beautiful stranger has been pretending to date her for months, she decides to take the charade one step further and announces their engagement. Gemma needs a wife to meet the terms of her grandfather's will, and Tansy needs money to save her struggling bookstore. A marriage could be mutually beneficial if they can fool everyone into thinking it's a love match. Unexpected sparks fly as Tansy and Gemma play the role of affectionate fiancés, and suddenly the line between convenient arrangement and real feeling starts to blur. Obviously. But the scheming Van Dalen family won't give up the company without a fight, and Gemma and Tansy's newfound happiness may get caught in the fallout. Coming out on the 25th of April is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I know that she can be a little bit divisive in the romance community. I know that some people don't necessarily see her books as romance, and I know that so many people have utterly loved them. I very much fall into this category. I really love the books that she has written so far. I have been engaged, I've been encapsulated. So let's see if this one has pretty much the same thing, because I have a feeling it's a kind of a fake dating, having like a second chance romance sprinkled in there as well. Harriet and Wynne are the perfect couple. They go together like bread and butter, gin and tonic, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Every year for the past decade, they have run away from their lives to drink far too much wine, soak up the sea air with their favourite people in the world. But this year, they are lying through their teeth. Harriet and Wynne broke up 6 months ago and they still haven't told anyone. But this is the last time they will all be together here. The cottage is for sale, and since they can't bear to break their best friends' hearts, they're going to fake it for one more week. But how can you pretend to be in love and get away with it in front of the people who know you best? Coming out on May 16th is The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren. I worship the ground that Christina Lauren walk on. They had my introduction to steamier contemporary romance with The Unhoneymooners, and ever since I have been on a kind of discovery with them as to what their tropes are like, how their writing is, how it kind of flawlessly doesn't look like two people are writing. I fell in love with Fizzy from The Soulmate Equation, and I kind of messaged them and say, this year I would really love to see a book about Fizzy. And they said that they had basically done that, so I kind of feel like I have made this happen. Fizzy Chen is lost. Sure, she's got an incredible career as a beloved romance novelist with a slew of bestsellers under her belt, but when she is asked to give a commencement address, it hits her. She hasn't been practicing what she's been preaching. Fizzy hasn't ever really been in love. Lost? Definitely. But that swoon-worthy, cannot stop thinking about them, all-encompassing feeling? So what happens when the optimism she spent her career encouraging to read starts to feel like a lie? Connor Prince, documentary filmmaker and single father, loves his work in large part because it allows him to live near his daughter. But when his profit-minded boss orders him to create a reality TV show, putting his job on the line, Connor is out of his element. Desperate to find his romantic lead, a chance run-in with an exasperated Fizzy offers Connor the perfect solution. What if he could show the queen of romance herself falling head over heels for all the world to see? Fizzy gives him a hard pass unless he agrees to her list of demands. When he says yes and production on the True Love Experiment begins, Connor wonders if that perfect match will ever be in the cards for him too. Coming out on the 25th of May is Seven X's by Lucy Vine. Lucy Vine is incredibly underrated, and I really feel like more people need to discover her work, to go and read a bit more of her stuff, and to learn a little bit more about her. She is incredibly funny, she's incredibly engaging, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this one because we haven't actually had a book from her in maybe 2 or 3 years by this stage. Esther is out with her 2 friends bemoaning her lack of relationship when she sees a magazine from the noughties. Seeking comfort and a laugh, she turns to the dating advice, only to find an article which feels a little too close to home. According to the journalist, there are 7 people a woman will date before finding the one. The first love, the work mistake, the friend with benefits, the overlap, the mischance, the bastard, and the serious one. Her friends laugh, but Esther realizes each of her exes fits this role perfectly. Deciding that she's mistaken her true love in the reject pile, she decides to contact each of her exes to find out which is the one that got away. Coming out on the 13th of June is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I'm not going to lie, I'm expecting the exact same kind of formula that Ali Hazelwood has, where the man is about 25 foot tall, he is built like a truck, and the woman is the size of a grain of rice. I enjoyed The Love Hypothesis a lot. I enjoyed Love on the Brain, but not quite as much. And I haven't read any of the STEMinist novellas yet, so let's see how I get along with this one. The many lives of theoretical physicist Elsie Hanaway have finally caught up with her. By day, she's an adjunct professor, toiling away at grading labs and teaching thermodynamics in the hope of landing tenure. By other day, Elsie makes up for her non-existent paycheck by offering her services as a fake girlfriend, tapping into her expertly honed people-pleasing skills to embody whichever version of her the client needs. Honestly, it's a pretty sweet gig until her carefully constructed Elsieverse comes crashing down. Because Jack Smith, the annoyingly attractive and broody older brother of her favourite client, turns out to be the cold-hearted experimental physicist who ruined her mentor's career and undermined the reputation of theorists everywhere. That same Jack now sits on the hiring committee at MIT, right between Elsie and her dream job. Elsie's prepared for an all-out war of scholarly sabotage, but those long penetrating looks, not having to be anything other than her true self when she's with him, will falling into an experimentalist's orbit finally tempt her to put her most guarded theories on love into practice. Finally coming out on the 20th of June is Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I first read a Rachel Lynn Solomon book in May of 2022. I read it as a buddy read with Hilary from Melted Books, and went immediately back to the other adult contemporary romance that she has gotten, and they are surprisingly steamy. I got really caught out by this one, having absolutely no expectations that there would be a sex scene halfway through it. I think all of these books are kind of set around the idea of journalism, the world of journalism. So we've already had a radio station, we have already had a TV station, so I'm expecting that this is probably going to be like a magazine or a newspaper, but let's see what the description says. Chandler Cohen has never felt more like the ghost in Ghost Rider until she attends a signing for a book she wrote and the author doesn't even recognize her. The evening turns more promising when she meets a charming man at the bar and immediately connects with him. But when all their sexual tension culminates in a spectacularly awkward hookup, she decides that this is one night better off forgotten. Unfortunately, that's easier said than done. Her next project is ghostwriting a memoir for Finn Walsh, a C-list actor best known for playing a lovable nerd on a cult classic werewolf show who now makes a living appearing at fan conventions across the country. But Chandler knows him better from their one-night stand of hilarious mishaps. Chandler's determined to keep their partnership as professional as possible, but when she admits to Finn their night together wasn't as mind-blowing as he thought it was, he is distraught. He intrigues her enough that they strike a deal. When they're not working on his book, Chandler will schoon Finn in The Art of Satisfaction. As they grow closer, both in and out of the bedroom, they have to figure out which is more important, business or pleasure, or if there's a way for them to have both. Those are all of the books coming out in the first half of 2023 that I just cannot wait to read. Are there any of those on your list, or what book are you most excited for the next 6 months? If you would like to leave a comment but you can't think of anything you'd like to say, then just leave the party hats emoji. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.